Yo, what's up, ProGuides fam? My name is Strafe, and today we'll be talking about the key differences to keep in mind when spraying. Spraying is a very commonly used tool, and if not done right, you'll end up like a sitting duck outlining the opponents like in a Tom and Jerry episode. There are many situations where you'll need to be aware of which type of spraying you should be committing to. After watching this, we hope you'll come out with more confidence on how you should be approaching your fights. Alright, it's time to get straight into the action.
If you didn't know already, the spray pattern in Valorant has RNG in it, unlike some of its counterparts, like Counter-Strike. This means that it's much more difficult to fully control the spray pattern, especially as it gets further into the spray. So why is it that crouch spraying is so much more common when engaging in fights, and why might it not be the best option all the time? Well, let's first talk about the perks of crouch spraying and how you should use it to help you win more of your gunfights. So let me explain this first. When you spray any weapon in Valorant, the crosshair will move vertically for the first 6 to 10 bullets before it starts shifting left and right in a randomized manner. In these first few shots, by crouching, it will physically move your crosshair to combat that initial vertical climb. In a sense, when you crouch as you spray, it's a pseudo way to pull down your gun without moving your mouse down. For those still learning how to control their spray and specifically pull their mouse down as they spray, crouching will help with this mechanic quite a bit. On top of that, the developers at Riot have fully stated that crouching while spraying also lowers the RNG intensity of the spray. That means crouching not only pulls down partially for you, but it also makes the actual spray pattern easier to control throughout. This makes crouching the premier choice when engaging at closer ranges, as you don't have the distance or time to move left to right in a controlled manner. I would say a good habit for those that are having trouble winning those close range engagements, start practicing being able to comfortably use your crouch to halt your movement as you swing on enemies, which will completely throw them off guard. In a close range fight, if you're the first to shoot and get into crouch position, that player is likely aiming at head/shoulder level and will have to adjust their crosshair down to your crouch position to kill you. This puts you at a huge advantage, and it's a big reason you see many pros crouch spraying at close range, and only specifically at close range. However, crouch spraying does become a huge problem if it's only your go-to in all engagements. This is an issue that I personally had to address myself, and I've also seen with many of the players that I've coached with in the past. If you're only crouch spraying regardless of what situation and distance, you will start to lose fights that you should be winning. Let's cover the biggest problem it will cause you: winning those medium to long range fights. Let's say you decide to peek someone at range, and your first instinct is to immediately start crouch spraying. Because you are fighting from a much farther distance, the pixels for the enemy's hitbox is much smaller at those ranges, making the shot harder for both of you. If you're the first person to instantly commit to crouching, you leave yourself extremely vulnerable so that the enemy can strafe side to side and take their time with their shots. Meanwhile, you're sitting duck and are giving them a very stationary target to kill. The reason this isn't much of an issue at close range is because the opponent is much closer, meaning they have a bigger hitbox and you have much more pixels to work with. Strafing side to side at close range doesn't make the shot that much more difficult for your enemy, and crouching close will alter the hitbox much more than at further ranges. Lastly, let's cover some of the weapons that will highly benefit from crouch spraying just because their recoil is very difficult to manage otherwise. Weapons that have crazy sprays like Stingers, Ares, Odins, and Frenzy are the most obvious that come to mind. The reason why is because that these weapons have some of the highest rate of fire in the game. In a short notice, the bullets will quickly climb the ceiling if you haven't crouched to combat the spray. I would say if you're using any of those weapons and you're forced to spray, you'll more than always have to crouch as well. Many people feel this way about the Phantom and Vandal, but it's actually not necessarily the case. But from my experience, the Stinger, Ares, Odin, and Frenzy are extremely difficult to combat if you don't utilize the crouching mechanic to lessen the RNG of the spray. Alright, before we get into the rest of the video, we have our question of the day for you guys. How do you guys feel about running accuracy in Valorant right now? On Twitter, I've been seeing a lot of outrage, especially with Tens on his tweet of running spray, and I personally think that it's quite out of hand, and we'll be covering it at the last part of the video, so stay tuned. I definitely see Riot addressing this issue in the near future and making some implementations to lower the effectiveness of running accuracy. Have you guys been dying to people who are legitimately drive-by run shooting in your games? Let us know in the comment section below. So we mentioned how great crouch spraying can be in the right situations, right? Well, let's quickly cover spraying while standing, which can be good in specific situations. The big takeaway is to understand your commitment to a fight. Recognizing if you need a hard commit to a spray or if you can strafe side to side is something that really separates some of the best apart. Whenever you are spraying, you are essentially committing to a fight, and crouching only puts you that much deeper into it. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but doing it at the wrong time can spell disaster. Whenever you're engaged in a fight but aren't sure if there are multiple players there, try to commit to the crouch first. A very popular tactic when approaching multiple players is to try and kill the first one or two without crouching. When you crouch, you are a sitting target, especially against multiple enemies. If you do watch a lot of multi-kill highlights at pro play, they usually secure the first one or two kills very quickly and resort to crouch spraying towards the end. Obviously, if you're able to find those gunfights individually, crouching and uncrouching at each engagement is perfectly fine. However, recognizing those movements when you can't do such a thing can be the difference from you securing one kill and dying and you single-handedly winning your team the round. So whenever you're put into those 1vx situations, try to kill the first person while standing and then crouch afterwards if you have no cover to reposition to. Lastly, spraying while standing can be a great option at range. Although I would highly recommend you to strafe and use controlled bursts of fire, mixing in standing sprays in strafes, and finally a crouch spray if the opponent isn't dead yet can maximize your chances of winning that gunfight. You want to make the shots harder on the opponent and the shots easier for you. This is why it's imperative to choose how to fight properly based on the engagement distance and amount of opponents you're dealing with. And I previously mentioned this, but this brand new trick was found out about TenZ very recently. He basically highlighted that run spraying is highly effective at very close ranges. If you fully spray while running and pull down, you can easily secure kills and make it extremely difficult to fight back. You all have experienced the pain of feeling like someone peeked you and killed you while full sprinting. Well, there might be some validity to those claims. To master this, just go into the practice range and practice doing this against bots. Alternatively, you can do this in deathmatch. This does work much better with the Phantom as opposed to the Vandal. As you guys might know, the Vandal spray is quite crazy. I've been testing this out in my ranked games and it's extremely effective when fighting opponents at close ranges, especially if you have an idea of where they are playing. It's a crazy broken mechanic, and if you can master it before they patch it, you'll be able to abuse it and climb ranked. Other players here will be playing Counter-Strike, but you'll be pulling out Call of Duty. And speaking of Call of Duty, if you haven't already, go check out our new ProGuides Call of Duty channel. We've been enjoying Cold War quite a bit and have some sick new videos in the works for you guys. If you're interested, go check us out there too. Okay, back on topic. Running spray is extremely effective at very close ranges, but that doesn't mean you won't be able to do this at close medium ranges. You will be preying on the RNG of the bullets to connect, but if you aim at the center of mass and pull down, you'll be surprised how likely it is to get kills. I've gotten so many kills from this range that I couldn't believe. As a closing note, I'll leave a clip here of TenZ getting an insane sequence of kills all while run spraying. This does need to be addressed immediately, but in the meantime, you guys should learn to do this to add to your arsenal. Although strafe shooting is a form of fighting that is totally unique compared to spraying in Valorant, I believe it's worthwhile to quickly mention it. We've mentioned briefly when we were discussing crouch spraying and how it can be used to better take engagements at farther ranges, but many of you guys might not be fluent in this style of fighting. This is much harder to learn and requires a higher level of trigger discipline and calmness. The best way to learn this is by taking your time with your shots at long range. A lot of players, myself included, had or currently have a tendency to shoot at players and continuously shoot until they are dead. However, the key to understanding how to strafe shoot is by letting your recoil reset, reposition, and try again. Your main concern with this is actually in your movement, as you are trying to counter strafe and shoot in between your shifts in movement to make you a harder target. Again, winning those fights at long distance can be the difference of a few pixels, and you don't have the luxury to stand still and spray, let alone crouch as well. The key here is to shoot a few shots as you're changing your movement direction and halting your movement very briefly. So if you're going left, hold A and then press D, let go and shoot a few shots. Repeat this process as you shift in different directions. Try to not be predictable, as that's the worst thing you can do in any competitive game. Watch as I shoot this target, constantly shifting left and right and shooting in a controlled manner. Once you begin mastering spraying in this form of fighting, you'll be a complete menace in your Valorant games. I guarantee it.
And that's all for this video. We covered the most common ways that people like to crouch spray and standing spray. We also talked a bit briefly about how strong run spraying and strafe shooting can be alongside with actual spraying. Now, there is a lot to learn in Valorant, so keep in mind that although you should be choosing the right one in the ideal situation, these things can potentially change as the game develops. If you want to keep up to date with the Valorant meta, make sure you guys subscribe and hit the bell notification button. Besides that, try your best to learn from every death and see if you could have done anything differently. Whether you committed to the crouch spray too early or didn't do that at all, we at ProGuides believe in you. With that said, we hope you guys can also check out our website, ProGuides.com, where we have the best #1 on-demand coaching out there. You can get connected with one of our highly skilled Valorant coaches who can guide you through your own individual needs. Lastly, check out our Discord. We have a lovely community there, and we'd hope to see you guys be there too. Well, that's it for all, guys. Till next time, stay frosty.